Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today, I'll be sharing with you my updated top 25 coasters I've ridden. I haven't made one of these in quite some time, and during that time, my list has drastically changed. Since the last list, I've ridden 97 new coasters across various places across the country, and have re-ridden several coasters that I had previously ridden. Without further ado, let's get into the list. Starting off the list, we have the original RMC coaster, New Texas Giant at Six Flags Over Texas. This coaster, while it isn't quite as good as any other RMC that succeeded it, is still a fantastic ride. It feels different from any other RMC I've ridden. It packs in several great moments of flowjector airtime throughout a long layout. Overall, this was definitely an excellent start to what became my favorite coaster manufacturer out there. At the number 24 spot, we have another RMC, this one being Goliath at Six Flags Great America. This one barely beats out New Texas Giant for having the stronger airtime. This is one of the only inversion-based RMCs, and it is definitely a great ride. It packs in a few great airtime moments and inversions in a very short layout. It's definitely short, but it's even more sweet. At the number 23 spot, we have SHOCKWAVE at Six Flags Over Texas. This is definitely one of the oldest coasters to make the list, but it is definitely a fantastic ride that stood the test of time marvelously. It packs in two bone-crushingly intense vertical loops and some crazily sharp ejector airtime moments. This ride definitely makes a lot out of a little, and it ranks up there even above most modern steel coasters I've ridden. At the number 22 spot, we have ORION at Kings Island. This was definitely my most anticipated thing on my revisit to Kings Island this year, and it definitely did not disappoint. It's surprisingly forceful for a B&M Hyper, and it packs in some great airtime moments as well. This was definitely a great addition to Kings Island, and it made an awesome park even better. At the number 21 spot, we have Fury 325 at Carowinds. This ranks slightly ahead of Orion just for being a little bit more forceful, but both are absolutely fantastic rides. This also packs in some surprisingly forceful moments and some good sustained airtime moments as well. I was glad to finally be able to ride the B&M Giga Coaster in my home state for the first time this year, and it sits just outside my top 20 at the moment. At the number 20 spot, we have Batman the Ride clones at several parks. I've ridden a grand total of 6 of these, and I still absolutely love these things. They are insanely whippy and intense, and I just love these old school B&M inverts more so than any other coasters B&M has put out there. Some of these are more forceful than others, but all of them are great, intense, whippy inverts. I don't mind the fact that these are everywhere, because I always enjoy riding them, and I will always take the credits. At the number 19 spot, we have Afterburn at Carowinds. This ranks slightly ahead of the Batman clones for having a longer layout, even though I do find the Batman clones slightly more intense. But this is another example of an epic, classic invert. The inversions are all very whippy and forceful, and that corkscrew at the end is death. This personally is my favorite coaster at my adopted home park of Carowinds, and it's certainly a fantastic invert, even though it's not my absolute favorite one, because we'll get to that soon. At the number 18 spot, we have Outlaw Run at Silver Dollar City. Here's another example of RMC's magic. This ride provides some awesome airtime and great inversions, as nearly all RMCs do. The wooded setting of the Ozarks also makes this ride stand out much more. This is a great ride, and is in my opinion, the best coaster in Missouri. At the number 17 spot, we have Maverick at Cedar Point. This may seem low to some people, but this is still a fantastic ride. That first drop is insane, and is my second favorite first drop out there, and it's also fairly intense and provides some other great airtime moments. At the number 16 spot, we have ALPENGEIST at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. It pains me to put this as low as it is, because this was the coaster that got me into coasters, and I do enjoy it the more I ride it, which is saying a lot. But sometimes coasters just have to move down once you ride more and more ones that just simply are better. That being said, this is still my personal favorite coaster, and is a major reason for why I love B&M inverts as much as I do. I've had so many incredible experiences on this ride, and I always love its intensity and its whip. There's a reason why I have an entire rap verse dedicated to this ride. At the number 15 spot, we have a coaster that actually moved up quite a lot in my rankings, and that's MAGNUM XL 200 at Cedar Point. This was the original hyper coaster, and I would take this any day over any B&M hyper out there. I rode this in the Magic Seat, which is row 3 for the first time this year, and I was actually shocked at how sharp the ejector airtime is. Those triangle hills send you flying into oblivion, and it's just incredible. This truly is a great ride, and I'm happy the original hypercoaster gets as much respect as it does. At the number 14 spot, we have Twisted Cyclone at Six Flags Over Georgia. This is yet another RMC masterpiece. You're going to see a trend in this list that Rocky Mountain Construction is by far my favorite coaster manufacturer. Their rides do airtime by far the best in my opinion, and RMC ejector airtime is by far my favorite force of any coasters. Anyways, this is an excellent ride with some awesome ejector airtime, and you just cannot go wrong with these RMC hybrids. At the number 13 spot, we have Iron Rattler at Six Flags Fiesta, Texas. This is one of the larger RMCs out there, and it's another fantastic one. That first drop is incredible, and the drop off the quarry is also excellent. Plus, I got first ride of the day on this, and even then I had no issues with the pacing. Anyways, this is another great RMC, but somehow manages to not even be my favorite RMC in this park. At the number 12 spot, we have Hades 360 at Mount Olympus. This ride I really didn't know what to expect going into, especially considering my less than impressive thoughts on the voyage, but this ride blew me away. I'm not sure how a pre-lift can have that insane of ejector airtime, but it somehow does. That's just the magic of this incredible layout. The underworld sections are also awesome. Plus, I did not find this ride nearly rough enough to affect the ride. Anyways, this is a great ride, and it's definitely one of the best wooden coasters I've ridden. At the number 11 spot, we have a coaster that none of you have ever heard anything about, named Thunderbolt at Six Flags New England. I guarantee you that you're probably standing over your computer with a shotgun right now, wondering why in the world this is even in my top 100, let alone my top 15. Well, I'm going to save a lot of this for the review I'll be making on this ride, but let's just say I've never actually been scared from airtime before riding this thing. The ejector airtime and the loose restraints, especially on that second to last hill, gave me a type of airtime I've never experienced before. Anyways, this is by far the oldest coaster on this list, but it's also certainly one of my favorite coasters ever. At the number 10 spot, we have Lightning Run at Kentucky Kingdom. This ride I feel gets massively overshadowed. This ride feels very much like an RMC, providing insanely sharp ejector airtime throughout the ride, and this ride also provides some unexpected positives. This is a great ride and definitely competes with some RMCs out there. At the number 9 spot, we have Wicked Cyclone at Six Flags New England. This is another fantastic RMC. It's one of the longer ones, and it provides the normal, if you would call it, RMC ejector airtime. This and Thunderbolt provide an amazing 1-2 punch for this park that I do find heavily underrated. At the number 8 spot, we have Storm Chaser at Kentucky Kingdom. This was one of the first RMCs I've ridden, and at the time, this thing absolutely blew me away. The ejector airtime, especially on that first camelback, is some of the strongest out there. This is a crazy ride, and it's just another example of RMC's beauty. At the number 7 spot, we have Phantom's Revenge at Kennywood. I may be placing this a little too high because of the shock value it gave me in 2019, but this is an amazing ride. The glorious restraints allow you to get violently ejected from your seat, and it's incredible. This is definitely one of the best hypercoasters I've ridden. At the number 6 spot, we have Twisted Timbers at King's Dominion. This coaster is the perfect example of what RMC does perfectly. This is quite a long ride, packing in around 20 moments of ejector airtime, and it's incredible. The trick track double up on this is better than the one on Storm Chaser, and all of the airtime moments on this are incredible. There's really nothing wrong with this masterpiece, yet it still somehow sits outside my top 5. Starting off the grand top 5, we have Wonder Woman Golden Lasso Coaster at Six Flags Fiesta, Texas. This ride going into it, I was a little conflicted. On one hand, this ride looked to have some pretty good pacing and airtime, but the restraints on it looked pretty painful. Well, this ride exceeded all my expectations. The pacing on this thing is absolutely wicked, and the ejector airtime is holy cow insane. This ride also was surprisingly very forceful for an RMC, especially on that final turn. Also, I didn't have an issue with the restraints, fortunately enough. Anyways, this is basically a perfect coaster as well, but still manages to not even be my favorite RMC. At the number 4 spot, we have SKYRUsh at Hershey Park. This is another example of a coaster that does everything right. The airtime on this thing is mental, especially that death-like first drop, which never gets old. This ride also provides excellent positives. Plus, after a re-ride, I did find the restraints a little bit painful, but I do think that a large part of that is just because of how powerful the airtime is. Anyways, this is an excellent ride that you'll love if you can take the pain. Taking the bronze at number 3, we have Intimidator 305 at King's Dominion. This, in my opinion, is the best Giga coaster I've ridden. This ride is mind-bogglingly intense and is the only coaster to consistently make me gray out every time I ride it. Plus, this ride is also insanely snappy and provides some surprisingly good ejector airtime moments. I was surprised I liked this as much as I did, because I do prefer ejector airtime to positives, but the intensity of this ride is on another level. This ride is incredible and is my favorite non-RMC coaster I've ridden. Taking the silver is Lightning Rod at Dollywood. This was my number one for some time, and I still absolutely love this thing. The ejector on it, especially the quad down, is beyond insane. This ride still has what quite possibly is the strongest ejector airtime I've experienced. I absolutely loved marathoning this last year, and it's just an incredible coaster. However, it has since been dethroned by none other than my new number one coaster, Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point. You must all be wondering, what? Why did this go from not being in your top 5 to being by far your number 1? Well, I won't get into it too much because that's a video coming soon, but I've never felt like I've disrespected an inanimate object more in my life than the GOAT that is Steel Vengeance. This ride is the accumulation of everything RMC done to the extreme. To those sustained ejector death hills in the first half, to the rapid-fire bunny death hills in the second half. This ride is just everything perfect. There's several reasons for why this has moved up for me, but I'll leave it at this. Steel Vengeance, I love you. And there you have it, my updated top 25 coasters I've ridden. This was definitely a strange list, and before riding some of these like Thunderbolt, I never thought that certain coasters would be in certain spots, or coasters like the Voyage that are in no spots. Anyways, leave me some suggestions for future videos coming soon. With that being said, Inverted Thrills, out.